Jesus proclaimed the gospel of the kingdom and cured every disease among the people. Hallelujah. 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 The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Lord,
At that time Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not even say a word to answer. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus harm, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord.
praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Back when I was a son, many years ago in Piggyville, it was one late May or early June Saturday, and I decided to go to the farmer's market in DuPois. And so I drive over there the 12 miles, and they had all the kinds of tents and stuff. This one lady had a tent filled with strawberries, and they looked really, really good. And she's out there, she had a couple on her hands. "You want to try one?" I said, "Sure." Tried it. Nice and red, juicy, sweet. It was yummy. I said, "Okay, I'll take a little basket of it. You know, those green cardboard containers that they're in and everything." And so I get this thing of strawberries, and I get home, and I'm ready to wash it. I was not too happy. You see, the first layer, that top layer, was all real ripe, juicy strawberries, just like I tasted. But the rest of them, all the way down the bottom, were green, sour, not right. I never had it. All right? And then I thought, wow, I never went back there again. But I just felt like this is false advertising. This is, they say one thing, but then most of it was not very good. That idea of false advertising, I think, is a good way to describe, a good analogy for our first reading. All right? In our first reading from Isaiah, God's speaking through Isaiah, and he's really getting at the people, the leadership of the temple in Jerusalem. And what did he say? He said, "I want my house to be a house of prayer for all peoples." And the Jewish people said, "Oh yeah, all Jews, everybody's welcome, everybody's welcome." Well, they weren't. Now, unfortunately, in your reading today, I don't know if you paid really, really close attention, and I don't harm against you if you don't. But if you notice, it was the 56th chapter of Isaiah, and it had verse 1, and then verses 6 and 7. In other words, it skipped verses 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, why the church did that, I don't know. But I wish they did. Because those verses 2, 3, 4, and 5 there, we're talking about these two specific groups that were always banned from the temple. Never allowed to come. All right? One was a group they were called eunuchs. Eunuchs were men who were castrated. They were unable to procreate. All right? It was part of the thinking, the rationale back then was that if you were unable to have kids, you would have positions of higher power and authority that you would not be swayed by sex. Okay? You would not be manipulated or taken advantage of. Okay? So there was this group of men, they were called eunuchs, and they were very prominent, they were very smart, they held high positions of authority like treasurers for people and stewards of landowners, and a lot of administrators up outside with money. People trusted them because they wouldn't be manipulated. All right? So these eunuchs, they were Jewish too, but they weren't allowed. They weren't allowed to go into the temple because of the belief, the important belief of procreating, of having kids, and building up the nation of Israel. So these poor eunuchs, they wanted to come, they wanted to pray, they wanted to offer sacrifice, but they couldn't. They were banned. The other group that was banned, you heard just a little bit about it in the first reading, you caught it just a glimpse of it, were foreigners. If you spoke another language, if you came from another country, if your skin was a different color, you were not allowed in that temple. No foreigners allowed. And so you have today God speaking to this prophet Isaiah, the third Isaiah, telling us, no, that ain't right. I want my house of prayer to be a house of prayer for all people. Well, what does that have to do with us? Well, I think we could be a bit more welcoming, don't you? You know, if you see somebody next to you sitting in the pew and you've never seen them before, why don't you say good morning? Why can't we say, welcome? Why can't we say, I'm glad you're here? Or, if you really want to go over the top, you can even introduce your name to them. Alright? Just to make people feel welcome. We want our house of prayer to be a house for all people. Whether you're a eunuch or a foreigner or not, it doesn't matter. But this should be a place where everyone should feel welcome and invited and encouraged to come back. Let's go to the second reading. Paul's letter to the Romans. We've been hearing it all summer. Today's little passage, I just want to focus on that last line, that God has mercy on all people. So again, you see this kind of theme of inclusiveness, inclusion, from the first reading, and Paul is kind of saying that again with this idea of showing mercy to everyone. That everybody deserves a little mercy. Everyone needs a second chance. Right? Let me tell you a story. Hopefully bring that point home. It involves this wonderful couple, Jan and Antonina. They were from Brzezinski, was the name. They're from Poland. They lived in Warsaw. They were a nice couple. They were in charge of the Warsaw City Zoo. The big zoo was a sprawling zoo in the capital of Poland. And Antonina loved just taking care of the animals and stuff, and especially like the little babies that she would help them in their nursing and everything, and feeding them bottles and everything. And they had a great job. They had a great house. They lived right on the zoo's campus. You know, a lot of trees, a lot of hills, flowers, wildflowers, and a lot of the animals got to roam quite freely there, which is kind of unorthodox for a zoo. But they loved it. They were great caretakers. Well, their little garden of Eden got smashed to bits because they lived during World War II, and the Nazis came in. And the Nazis came in and took over. And when they found that zoo, most of the big animals, like the giraffes and zebras and stuff, they shipped them out to German zoos. Right? But they left a few animals there so that they could, the Nazis could have target practice, you know, on the animals, which is sad. And so it was just a wasteland. The zoo this garden of Eden became horribly ugly and bad. And so about a year after the Nazis took over, Jan and Antonina were surprised, shocked, that they were named the supervisor of parks for Warsaw. And so, you know what they did? It was clever, it was brilliant. They turned their zoo into a pig farm, right? And they raised pigs. Right? You may think, well, why is that? What's so weird about that? Well, remember, Jews don't eat pork, right? And so they grew all these pigs and raised them and slaughtered and butchered them and everything. But you know what they did? They took all the pork chops, all the pulled pork, all the bacon, and all that stuff that comes from a pig, and they butchered it and everything, and they smuggled it into about 2 miles away from that zoo was a Jewish ghetto, where the Nazis put all the Jews in there. They weren't allowed to freely roam around, walk around town. And so they smuggled this food in. And that was the only meat the Jewish people had. They ate it. Even the Orthodox Jews ate it. Right? Because the Nazis weren't letting them have any meat. They couldn't have beef, chicken, fish, nothing. Right? They weren't getting any source of protein. And so the Brzezinskis were taking these pigs, butchering them, and smuggling them in every day, and the Nazis never found out. Meanwhile, when they do that, they would notice that all these Jews from the ghettos every day, some of them, more than a handful, were being loaded up to trains, to Auschwitz, to Buchenwald, to death camps. Right? And they thought, we're not doing enough So you know what they did then? They were able to smuggle through over 300 Jews from that ghetto. And they hid them in the zoo. Put bombed, beat up, burned out the zoo. And sheltered them and took care of them. Alright? The Basinskis were not Catholic, or were not Jewish, they were Catholic. Okay? But they knew that these people were being persecuted, they needed a little mercy, and they showed it. So when Paul says in that second reading, God has mercy to everybody, he's going to say, hey, you get the hint here? Show a little mercy. Show a little mercy to people that really need it. So now we go to the gospel. Alright? What a great gospel. Matthew says they're walking through Tyre and Sidon. Tyre and Sidon are cities that are still there today. Still here. They're in the country of Lebanon. Right? So they're way out of their comfort zone. They're not in Israel at all. Okay? And the Jewish people were afraid a lot of times to go outside of their little country because of trouble and facing trouble, being a foreigner and everything. So, the rule was, when you cut through another country, you're going someplace, right? You keep a low profile, you keep your mouth shut, you just do what you have to do and just get through it. Right? So that's what they're doing. They're minding their own business. Jesus with his disciples, they're walking through these cities and everything. And here's a Canaanite woman, a local. Alright? Her daughter's being tormented by a demon. It says, she knows obviously who Jesus is, because she called him Jesus, son of David. That's a messianic title. So you recognize that he's Messiah. Alright? So she yells out, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Have pity on me. My daughter's being tormented. And what does Jesus do? He just keeps walking along, keeping that Jewish attitude. Let's just get through here. Let's just keep going. And she keeps going. Help me, Jesus, son of David, have pity on me, help me. So finally, the apostles had driving them crazy. Lord, say something to her. Tell her to shut up. She's driving us crazy. So Jesus stopped. I've only come for the lost sheep of Israel. In other words, I'm here to save the Jewish people. In other words, you're not Jew, leave me alone, you don't count. Well, that's kind of insulting, isn't it? First, it was insult just to ignore her. Right? Second, saying that you're not one of us, so I'm not going to worry about you. Alright? But she's on fire. She wants her daughter healed. You'd do anything for your son and daughter. If they were really hurting, if they were in a lot of trouble and everything, you would do whatever it takes to get them healed. And she knows, she has the faith that Jesus has been healed. She says, come on, Jesus, please, help me. So now Jesus gets a little testy. What does he say? It's not right to give the food that's meant for the kids and throw it to the dogs. In other words, she's referring to her, this Canaanite woman, as a dog. Right? That's just mean. Right? That's insulting. But this woman, she don't care. She wants her daughter healed. So what does she say? She comes right back in. Don't even the dogs get scratched? Don't they even get some scratched too? So you just imagine Jesus walking along and everything, and this is happening, and then she brings that lamb off the dogs, getting scratched. He probably just stops and thinks to himself, you know something? She's right. She's right. Okay, you have faith. You have faith. You have great faith. And isn't that amazing? Because remember last week when Peter was sinking in the water, Jesus called him, oh, ye of little faith. Right? Now there's this Canaanite woman. You have great faith. You get what you want. If it wasn't for her persistence, I don't think her daughter would have been healed. And so there's the lesson for us, right? Persistence. Especially when it comes in terms of our faith. Let me tell you another story. A man, his name was Lyman. He was born in 1856. He was the seventh of 9 children. He lived out in the Midwest, and he, lived on a farm. And all his kids, his brothers and sisters worked on the farm. But poor Lyman, he had a really bad heart. Really bad heart. He couldn't do any activity. He'd go to some kind of party or rest or something. So he would always have to stay inside alone. So here's this poor Lyman staying inside day in, day out, while all his siblings are out working on the farm. And he's bored. So what does he do in his loneliness? He starts fantasizing. He starts thinking of pretend worlds where animals can speak. and then objects can talk and do things. And he starts opening up in his own world. He opens up his own little fantasy world. Right? I mean, he's just day after day, he's thinking of these different fantasies and different things, and just things that just blew people away. And the rest of his siblings thought it was crazy. Well, he grows up, and he tries to make a living. He tried to be a journalist, and he failed. He tried to run a printing press. He failed. He tried to breed chickens. He failed. He just tried, whatever he tried. One time he was in the Dakotas in the 1880s. These settlers there in the Dakotas, and he's trying to sell Chinese lanterns and Bohemian stuff from Bohemia and stuff from Europe. Well, settlers, the frontiersmen don't want to have any need for that stuff. Well, he failed. He finally finds a woman, though. Her name is Maud. Great woman. Maud falls in love with her, falls in love with her, his fantasies and stuff, and his dreams and everything. And Maud's mom says, "Don't marry him. He's a flake. Get away from him." Well, you know how it is. You're in love, right? And so they marry. And again, he's trying to start, support his wife, and then they're starting to have kids. And wherever he goes, wherever he does, fail. So his mother-in-law finally says to him, you talk about all these fantasies and everything. Well, why don't you go to Chicago? Why don't you go to Chicago? Because there's a lot of writers there. And there's a lot of printers there. And maybe you could write children's stories. Lemon thought, wow, it's a good idea. So he did. So he didn't have anything. He was sharing an office with 3 other writers, and he started to put pen to paper, some of these childhood fantasies he had. And there's one he didn't know what to call it. But he's looking around the office and he sees this file cabinet that had 3 doors. The little metal file cabinets. The top drawer was like A to H, and the second drawer was, I to N, and then the bottom drawer was O to Z. And he just kind of kept that in his head. He said, I don't know what I'm going to call this story. So he gets the story done. And then finally, when he has to turn it in, he goes to publisher after publisher after publisher, and every publisher rejects him. All right? This guy's persistent. It's like that woman in the gospel. All right? So Lemon finally finds the publisher and said, okay, I'll publish it under one condition. You pay the cost. I'm not risking my money on this. This is crazy what you have here, but it might work for some. So he scrounges up enough money and pays for it to be published. All right? He never hears back from him. Now it's 1900, right? He's in Chicago. In Christmas in 1900, he's got 3 kids and his wife, and he doesn't have any money to buy Christmas presents for his kids. So his wife says, go down to that publisher, see if there's any royalties. Maybe, you get some royalties from that story. So he goes down, not very hopeful, not very confident, because his whole life pretty much has been a failure. He goes there and says, we do have a check for you. And he's thinking, it's that much. Well, he gets a check, he doesn't even open it, because he thinks, it's nothing, it's not going to buy presents for his kids. So he gets home, he gives it to his wife. His wife opens it up, and she nearly faints. $1,423.98. Now this is 1900, and I did a little calculator when I Googled it to see how much $1,400 is in today's money. $51,000. This kid's got a Christmas that year. And he sold, and it became the #1 book in America. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. O-Z. Right? On the top. He just used that as the title. Right? He ended up selling, Lyman Frank Baum, ended up selling and writing over 70 children's books. And he went from failure to failure to failure to failure. And he never gave up. Just took a little encouragement. And so, I'm asking you to be like Lyman Frank Baum. I'm asking you to be like that Canaanite woman in the gospel today. To be persistent in your faith. It's way too easy to say, I'm going to sleep in this Sunday morning and not come to church. It's way too easy. I'll just, let the chips fall where they may. But if then you can just picture Jesus saying to you, "Oh, woman, you are